I invite the member for Prince George Valemount to lead the House in prayer or reflection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After the tragic events of this past weekend, we are left with more questions than answers, and are reminded that losing of loved ones results in indescribable pain. A journey through the depths of grief can leave us feeling lost and shattered. In these moments, the Filipino community, province, country, and world seems to have come to a standstill, and we turn to the solace of faith. We collectively find strength in the power of prayer, seeking the divine to heal our wounds, hearts, and grant us peace and comfort. Dear Lord, in this time of deep sorrow and loss, we turn to you for solace. The pain in the hearts of many is overwhelming, and they feel great anger. Please grant us the strength to bear this grief, manage this anger, and find comfort in your loving embrace. Help us navigate the turbulent waters of sorrow and find solace in the cherished moments made in times of joy. Lord, you are the anchor of our souls, and we trust you will carry the Filipino community and the province through this difficult and challenging time. Amen. Amen. Introduction by members. Minister of Energy.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Today, April 30th, is Journey to Freedom Day, which marks the contributions of the Vietnamese Canadian community and the journey that many of the community took in dangerous circumstances to flee Vietnam and come to Canada in the wake of the Vietnam War, which ended 50 years ago today. And we had, and I want to thank members on all sides of the House for participating. We had a very moving event today in the Hall of Honor, and it's my honor to welcome some of our many guests, our 100 guests today, that included Andy Pham, who's a Vietnamese community and industry leader who spoke today so eloquently, Edison Tran, who's a Vancouver entrepreneur and past Vice President of the Vietnamese Professional Association of BC, who gave a guitar performance today, Ken Do of the Vietnamese Veterans Association, Vien Tham Van Kom, the President of the Laos Community Association of BC, Nguyen Han Winnie Cao, Tammy Dow from the Lac Viet Public Education Society, Hop Van Pham from the Vietnamese Association for Cultural Preservation, and Tri Duc Dang from the Vietnamese Air Force Association of BC. Thank you for all members for supporting this important day today, and please welcome all our guests from the Vietnamese Canadian community, from the Laotian Canadian community, and from the Cambodian Canadian community here to this House.
House Leader of the Green Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored to welcome to the House today a constituent from Salt Spring Island, Olivia Hain. April is National Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Month, and Olivia is here today as a volunteer with the BC Transplant. When Olivia's brother, Alistair, tragically passed in 2017, his family knew that organ donation was the right thing to do, and he ended up saving the lives of 5 people. Since then, Olivia and her parents have been dedicated volunteers with BC Transplant, sharing Alistair's story and encouraging others to consider registering as organ donors. BC Transplant will be in the library today between 2 and 3:30, and I welcome and urge my colleagues to visit and meet with Olivia and other volunteers. Thank you, Olivia and BC Transplant, for their important work.
Minister of Mining and Critical Minerals.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Visiting the legislature today, our guests from the Barrick Mining Association, Mr. Speaker, and they are Christina Erling, Vice President of Government Affairs, Carrie Hermity, Mine Manager, and Alison Brown, Group Director, Reclamation and Closure. And they are here, Mr. Speaker, to watch the question period, particularly. That's their key interest. So mining sector usually quite, they are kind of trained to, see the high noises, so that will be okay with them. Barrick Mining Association, Mr. Speaker, is a major global mining company. So I will ask the House to please make them welcome in this House.
Member for North Island.
I've got two introductions to do here. I'd like to introduce Rob McNeil, one of the program directors at Rob Ron Center, an alternative high school, as well as Christine Johnson, a teacher there, Nicole Gerard staff, other staff members, and 9 students. Welcome. I'd also like to welcome the BCPS, British Columbia Public Service Employees for Freedom, President Philip Davidson, who's now doing a law degree, as well as the United Healthcare Workers of BC. The president is Jed Ferguson. Both are registered non-for-profit society in BC. They're about informed consent, medical privacy, and bodily autonomy. There's 14 of them today, including Terry Perry-Polkin, a healthcare worker who lost her job. Welcome.
Minister of Forest.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. We've got representatives from the City of Prince George joining us in the House today. Councillor Garth Frizzle, Councillor Kyle Sampson, Councillor Susan Scott, their City Manager, Walter Baptiste, as well as Senior Advisor for Intergovernmental Relations, Catherine Sikob. I've spent quite a bit of time in Prince George, Mr. Speaker, the last few months, and really pleased to be able to meet with representatives from Prince George to talk about forestry. And I know many members on both sides of the House will have an opportunity to meet with these councillors and their team. With the House, please join me in making them feel very welcome.
Member for Prince George Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the Minister of Forest just beat me to the punch, but I'd really like to welcome the delegation from the City of Prince George that was just named the Northern Capital, and I want to thank all members who and ministers who have met with them on their time here, and I want to thank them for the great meeting we had yesterday as well. And could the House please give them one more round of thanks for all they do for the City of Prince George.
Member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's always a good day when you get to introduce friends in this House, and today I'm honoured to welcome my campaign manager extraordinaire, Jasmeet, who also works for the Minister of Labour, along with her partner Anmol and her mother Sharon, who's her first time visiting this House, and maybe this is the visit that will make her finally get her Canadian citizenship after 32 years of being in this country. So that's what we're hoping, but if the House could please join us in making her feel very welcome.
Member for Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to acknowledge Miss Walser's grade 5 class in my riding from the Surrey Christian School. They are learning about government, and that the entire class has been doing a virtual tour of our building. So please join me in welcoming them to what government looks like on a daily basis. Thank you.
Minister of Jobs and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As was mentioned, it's a real privilege to be able to introduce friends and family to the House, and today I have with me 3 family members who I have the honour and privilege of introducing. I'll start with my father because it's his 85th birthday, and I know. And he's been a real inspiration to me. He's a professor of engineering management and taught me a lot in my life. My mother also here, who's also a professor in health science and a former nurse, and also business owner, author. And my aunt as well, Sheila Whitaker, who's here, another inspiring family member who was actually the first women CEO of a company listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So thank you for the warm welcomes.
Member for Kootenay Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to echo the Minister of Mines as well. My tongue is twisted this morning, but welcoming Barrick Mining Corp, I guess Barrick Gold Corp now. Had a great meeting this morning. Thank you guys so much for coming. And we look forward on this side to making sure that mining stays a vital part of the economy here in BC. Thank you.
Minister of State for Local Governments.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I just wanted to bring the House's attention to a new docu-series, and which is atypical as an introduction in this House, but this is a docu-series that it's called Wildfire, and it follows the BC Wildfire Service in a 5-part series, and it was created by 2 of my constituents, actually, some people I grew up with, Simon Shave and Clay Mitchell, along with Kevin Eastwood, and it showcases firefighters from my constituency, but also from many of yours. And I hope that we all have time to be able to review this. It shows the bravery of our BC Wildfire Service firefighters, and I am so grateful for their service and also for the documentary makers. So will the House please give a round of applause for this documentary? Thank you.
Member for Peace River South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't see them in the gallery today, but I would like to welcome to the precinct the executive of Tourmaline Corp, the largest natural gas producer in Canada. We had an excellent opportunity to exchange some great ideas and express or talk about some of the fantastic resources of the beautifully clean natural gas that we have in this province. Thank you.
Member for North Vancouver Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very honoured to welcome the incredible staff and volunteers, as have already been referenced, from the BC Transplant to the legislature today. And as National Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Month ends, we recognize the power of donation to save lives. In 2024, 481 British Columbians received a second chance, thanks to 118 deceased donors and 90 living donors, and the dedicated healthcare teams who make transplant possible. Some of the volunteers with us today are transplant recipients and donor family members, powerful advocates for the life-saving work that they do. I invite all members to stop by the Legislative Library this afternoon, up until about 3:30 after question period, to learn more about the impact of organ donation in British Columbia. As an aside, my husband was an organ donor for bone marrow a number of years ago to a young mother of 2 small children. Those children are now in college and their mom is cheering them on. So it's really important. Thank you for making them feel welcome.
Member for Kelowna Mission.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to acknowledge someone who is not in the chamber today, and that is my wife, Erin. Today is our 8th wedding anniversary, and instead of taking her out for dinner, I'm going to be here in this house doing estimates and committee stage debate on Bill 7. So I just want to state for the record that I love you, I miss you, I'll see you soon.
Member for Esquimalt Colwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to welcome a resident of View Royal for part of my constituency, Steve Farmer. Steve was diagnosed with hepatitis C at the age of 46 and received a liver transplant on New Year's Day 2005. His transplant has given him time to be a dad to his 2 daughters, and the highlight has been able seeing them both grow and to be married. Steve has also competed in several Canadian transplant games and won many medals, including last summer in Ottawa. Steve has been a long-time volunteer with BC Transplant, sharing his story, inspiring people to register their decision on organ donation. Can the House please welcome him?
Member for Burnaby East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to welcome Daniel Heo, who is my new constituency advisor, and I was hoping to have a line of sight on him, but he is absolutely amazing. I've known him since 2021, and this man makes incredible bagels fresh and brought them into the campaign office regularly. Suffice it to say, I don't know what I would do without him, bagels and all. Thank you so much.
Leader of the Third Party.
Mr. Speaker, tens of thousands of people took part in Vancouver's Sun Run on Sunday, among them my constituents, the Lions Bay Rainforest Racers team, who are admittedly not in the building but are watching from home. This year, 42 members came together to remember Barbara Enns, one of the founders of the team, and her husband David. Barbara and David died tragically last December when their home was destroyed by a landslide. I'd like to extend my heartfelt congratulations and appreciation to the Lions Bay Rainforest Racers team.
Member for Burnaby South Metro Town.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm excited to welcome my friend to the House today, Linda Lee, and her two sons, Henry Wong and William Wong. She was a candidate with us for Richmond Bridgeport, but more than that, she's a pillar of community in Richmond. She served with the Richmond Chinese Community Society, the Richmond Hospital Foundation, and she's a prominent business owner as well. So if I can just ask the whole House to give a very warm welcome to three of them. Thank you.
Member for Nanaimo Lansdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to recognize someone very special in the legislature today, and that is my friend Linda Campbell. Linda has dedicated her career to public service, bringing wisdom and compassion to everything that she does. Moreover, she has a remarkable ability to get things done. It's a skill that I try to borrow whenever I can. Unfortunately, it has mixed results. Her presence today is a reminder of the many unsung heroes who serve not for recognition, but out of love for their community and country. So I hope that the House will give Linda the most warm welcome. Thank you, Linda.
Madam Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
Minister of Energy.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I have the honour to present a message from Her Honour, the Lieutenant Governor.
Her Honour the Lieutenant Governor transmits herewith Bill number 14, entitled Renewable Energy Projects Streamlined Permitting Act 2025, and recommend the same to the Legislative Assembly. Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move that the bill be introduced and read a first time now. Honourable Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce Bill 14, the Renewable Energy Projects Streamlined Permitting Act. Bill 14 would establish the BC Energy Regulator as the primary permitting agency for renewable energy projects and major transmission lines, allow the BC Energy Regulator to establish a new rigorous regulatory framework for renewable energy projects, and allow for the exemption from the Environmental Assessment Act for wind power projects and the North Coast transmission line. I'd like to inform the House that the government considers this bill a matter of confidence. BC has a once-in-a-generation opportunity to become a world leader in clean energy production, and we must take every action possible to see that all British Columbians benefit from this opportunity. Renewable energy projects are urgently needed to provide affordable, clean power, create jobs, and diversify our economy, especially during this period of global market uncertainty. Honourable Speaker, we need to build. We need to build to support our economy. We need to build to fight climate change. We need to build to secure our energy sovereignty. Bill 14 will assist us in this task. I'm proud to move first reading.
Members, the question is first reading of the bill. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Minister.
Honourable Speaker, I move that the bill be placed on orders of the day for second reading at the next sitting of the House after today.
You have heard the question. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Madam Clerk.
Statements by members.
Member for Burnaby East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is the last day of Sikh Heritage Month, and I would like to wrap it up by lifting up the Sikh community and values and the connections with the Filipino community, and how our communities have come together during this significant time of grief. Both Filipino and Sikh values place a strong emphasis on community support and collective well-being. At the heart of both traditions is the idea that caring for others is not just a choice or a responsibility, but a source of happiness. In Filipino culture, this is seen through the concept of banahayan, where people come together to help one another, especially in times of need, whether it's moving a house, responding to a natural disaster, or supporting a neighbor in crisis. Filipinos naturally unite in solidarity. Similarly, in the Sikh community, the principle of seva, or selfless service encourages individuals to help others without expecting anything in return. One of the most visible examples that we know of is the practice of langar, the free community kitchen found in every gurdwara, where anyone, regardless of background, is welcome to a hot meal. Both cultures also value hospitality, generosity, and compassion, often sharing food and resources with neighbors and strangers alike. Community gatherings, religious events, and festivals often become opportunities to support those in need. Another important similarity is how both cultures mobilize so quickly during emergencies. Whether through church groups, organizations like Filipino BC or Mabuhay House, barangays, or Sikh aid organizations, these responses are often grassroots and driven by a deep sense of duty and empathy. After the tragedy at the Lapu-Lapu Day Festival, the Sikh community rose to action to feed families, including the Guru Nanak Free Kitchen and Khalsa Aid, and stand behind them during a time of unimaginable grief. In both communities, the belief is clear. When one person struggles, the whole community must step in. This shared commitment to uplifting others is a powerful connection between the Filipino and Sikh way of life. What an honor and what a way to honor Sikh Heritage Month than really truly live our values. I want to extend my most sincere condolences to everyone affected by the tragic events of Lapu-Lapu Day celebration. To the Filipino community, we stand with you and we love you.
Members, try to keep your 2-minute statements within 2 minutes time, please. Member for Richmond Centre.
I'll try my best. Honourable Speaker. May marks Asian Heritage Month. As we step into May, it is a time to honour and celebrate the contributions of Canadians of Asian descent, those who have helped build this province and who continue to shape its future. British Columbia is home to one of the most diverse populations in the country, with deep-rooted Asian communities whose presence date back to more than 150 years ago. From early Chinese railway workers and Japanese fishermen to South Asian farmers and Filipino caregivers, Asian Canadians have long been the backbone of BC's economic, cultural, and social life. Their stories are one of resilience, sacrifice, and strength. These communities have experienced exclusion, discrimination, and hardship. However, they have stood strong and made this province better for everyone. Today, Asian Canadians are leaders in every field, from education to business, from healthcare to public service. Their impact is not only seen in our cities, but also deeply felt in our neighborhoods. I want to especially recognize the work of success led by CEO Queenie Chu. This long-standing community organization has helped tens of thousands of newcomers build their lives here in BC. Their tireless efforts over the past 50 years have empowered generations of Asian Canadians and have brought communities closer together. I also want to highlight the enormous contribution of the Filipino community, one of the fastest growing communities in British Columbia. From healthcare workers and caregivers to educators, business owners, and artists, the Filipino community exemplifies compassion, dedication, and service. Their presence have enriched every corner of our province. Honourable Speaker, Asian Heritage Month is more than a celebration. It's a recognition of history, sacrifices, and leadership of Asian Canadians. It's a reminder that the story of British Columbia is not completed without them. Let us honor these contributions not only in May, but each and every day of the year. Thank you.
Member for Burnaby South Metro Town.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise today to recognize and celebrate the upcoming 5th World Traditional Chinese Medicine Acupuncture Cultural Week starting on June 21st, hosted by the Home of Canadian Traditional Chinese Medicine Society, founded by Dr. John Lee, Dr. Ronggang Lee, in partnership with the Canadian Community Service Association. Traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM, has profoundly contributed to our society by treating diseases, combating pandemics, supporting rehabilitation, and preserving health and well-being. Rooted deeply in tradition of Eastern Asian philosophies and culture, TCM emphasizes health cultivation and life fulfillment. This special week of celebration provides a meaningful opportunity for British Columbians to discover more about TCM's immense value and engage in cultural exchanges to foster mutual understanding between diverse communities. Activities will include ceremonies, roundtable discussions highlighting BC's accomplishments in TCM, educational programs on health preservation, cultivation lectures, and engaging Tai Chi exercise led by esteemed TCM masters and renowned scholars. I invite all members of this House and the public to participate and learn about the remarkable wisdom and practices of traditional Chinese medicine during this important culture week. And for more information, please go to wtcmaw.events. Thank you.
Member for Chilliwack, Cultus Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. April is National Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Month, and I want to take a moment to honor the life-changing gift that organ donors give to others. It's an important and selfless act that has the power to transform lives. Organ donation is one of the impactful acts of humanity that simply cannot be measured. In 2024, 481 people received organ transplants. Out of those transplants, 118 were made by deceased donors and 90 by living donors. Each of these people ensured that a loved one or a stranger could have another chance at living a full life. Joining us here today is one of my constituents from Chilliwack, Cultus Lake. Krista Winnig is a volunteer with BC Transplant and has personal experience with organ donation. Her sister is an organ donor. I too can relate on a personal level. My cousin donated a kidney to a close loved one, and this improved her standard of living and created an unbreakable bond between them. Organ donation truly can have a life-altering effect on families across British Columbia and the country. Statistically, you are more likely to need a transplant than you are to become an organ donor. That's what makes these acts of generosity so extraordinary. They offer hope when it's needed most. Today, I want to thank those who've already made the decision to give. Your compassion has given others the chance to heal and continue to be with the ones that they love. As BC Transplant says, quote, "It only takes 2 minutes to save a life, but the impact of that decision lasts a lifetime." This is work that deserves the continued support of all elected members in the House, and together as British Columbians, we must ensure organ donation continues to enrich and save lives. To those who have passed but left a piece of themselves behind, your thoughtful acts have saved and improved the lives of so many. We honor your memory and sacrifice today. Thank you.
Member for Burnaby North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Burnaby is experiencing a food security crisis. Consider this. The number of people using the Burnaby food hubs, or what we used to call food banks, has more than doubled since 2021. An estimated 4,000 people are now using food hubs every week. 23% of all the food collected by the Greater Vancouver Food Bank is distributed to Burnaby residents. And more recipients work full-time but can't afford basic living expenses. This pressure on the food hubs themselves is overwhelming. They each have to find their own supply of protein and fresh vegetables. While some hubs are run by a paid coordinator, others are run entirely by volunteers. It takes 40 to 60 volunteers at every location for a full day, once a week, to prepare and distribute food boxes. While this crisis is unprecedented, so too has been the response. Last November, the City of Burnaby adopted a food system strategy. Implementing the strategy is an advisory table composed of community food organizations like the Burnaby Neighbourhood House. City staff and food security experts are also at the table. The strategy addresses the entire food system: growing, harvesting, processing, packaging, transporting, distributing, preparing, marketing, and consuming. The goal is to ensure that all people have food choice and access to culturally appropriate food, that food is grown and made locally, that food is affordable to produce and to purchase, that production is connected to local businesses, is sustainable and resilient, and is ethical and socially just. Mr. Speaker, food brings us together, and so does this initiative. Thank you.
Member for North Island.
Mr. Speaker, I want to introduce Rob McNeil. He's a 25-year veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces, an avid skydiver, jump master, skydiving instructor. Rob is a selfless man. He has deep passion for helping people, including at-risk kids, as well as veterans, first responders who suffer from PTSD and anxiety. He runs the Operation Pegasus Jump, an event that began in July 2022 aimed at supporting veterans and first responders dealing with PTSD and other mental health issues. The event uses skydiving, which serves as a platform for veterans to connect, challenge themselves, and share their stories in a supportive environment. Recently, a police officer involved in a shooting last year came to the program. He is now back at work. 10 officers from the Vancouver Police Force have now registered for Operation Pegasus. In 2016, Rob was sought out to start a trades program. He started the program in his garage with 14 youth. These 14 youth were high risk, struggling and not successful in traditional school environment. Rob took these young people and started teaching industrial sewing. After 6 months, he was approached to run his program through Robron, an alternative school option offered in Campbell River. The program has grown and is well known in Campbell River. He offers the programs to all the schools and teaches sewing to as young as grade 4. Along with sewing, his students have gained access to Rob's vast knowledge and passion in skydiving, rigging, and parachute packing. D&D in Comox hires Rob's students to pack chutes. The students also pack chutes for Operation Pegasus. On his team of students, Rob has the youngest parachute packer in Canada that has now her own business. She also teaches at Rob's program and mentors new students coming in. Rob has opened the door for so many young people, and he supports them in every step of the way. He has managed to link at-risk kids with role models, for example, veterans, police, first responders, with his Pegasus Jump program. Rob, thank you for caring so much and making a huge difference in so many lives.
Madam Clerk.
Oral questions by members.
Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The mass murder of festival attendees in Vancouver over the weekend has had a profound impact on our province. But, Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time there have been serious injuries or deaths involving people with severe mental illness in our province. We heard multiple examples yesterday, and frankly, for years, of severely mentally ill people failed by this government who go on to cause harm, deaths, or who themselves become victims of violence. Mr. Speaker, we need an immediate public inquiry. If the Premier is concerned about tainting the future trial related to this weekend's tragedy, the inquiry could focus on all those other incidents. As a province, we cannot wait. My question to the Premier is, will the Premier do the right thing and announce a public inquiry into mental health care in BC today?
Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. There are a number of pieces in the member's question I want to address. First of all, with respect to the incident at the Lapu Lapu Day Festival, the mass murder, it was just that. It was a mass murder by a man who decided to drive his vehicle through a crowd. Now, we don't know why yet. It'll be tested at the criminal trial and ultimately perhaps at a public inquiry. But we will get British Columbians those answers. Vancouver Coastal Health tells us he was under active treatment. They tell us he was compliant with his medication. They tell us that there was no indication that he was violent. That will all be tested by cross-examination, perhaps twice. And so, Honourable Speaker, I'll ask the member and others to reserve judgment about what happened and let that process play out. For mental health broadly in the province, do we really need an inquiry to tell us what we know we need to do, which is open more beds, provide more care, provide more interventions in communities, because that's what we're doing. 140 more hospital beds across the province. We're opening across the province intensive and voluntary care beds for people struggling with mental health, addiction, and brain injury. Interventions in communities, additional ACT teams, working with experts in the field like Dr. Daniel Vigo. There's an aspect of the member's question that I do want to address, the Mental Health Act itself. We announced today that we'll do a review and modernization of the Act to ensure it meets the expectations of British Columbians. We've held off on that because of a court challenge to the Act and the forced treatment provisions. We're defending the Act. We think we need those forced treatment provisions. But the moment we're in, we can't wait. We need to act.
Member supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Premier stood on the steps of this place and said that if he didn't get the answers from court, he would call a public inquiry. Now he stands in this place and says, why do a public inquiry if we already know what to do? Well, if the Premier knows what to do, why is he not doing it, Mr. Speaker? Yesterday I received an email from the parents of a young man who had mental illness. He was under the care of a mental health team, and he had been deteriorating for 2 months before he was murdered, stabbed to death in an altercation. His parents believe a lack of services and his deterioration contributed to the circumstances that led to his murder. His parents said the mental health team did not check in on their son with proper frequency, effectiveness, or verify his medication. They said, quote, "No one listened to us. Our son was miserably failed. His death could have been prevented." End quote. Will the Premier do the right thing by this family and countless other families? Families that are impacted by the failures of the mental health system under this Premier and this government, and call an inquiry into our system today.
Premier.
I'm sure the member didn't do it intentionally, Honourable Speaker, but she conflated my answer. On the issue of the mass murder at the Lapu Lapu Festival, British Columbians deserve answers. Why did this happen? If they don't get the answers from the criminal process, we will call a full public inquiry. Very clear about that in my first answer. Clear again now. We will get British Columbians the answers, because I want the answers. British Columbians want the answers. I know the member wants the answers too. But in terms of the broad array of issues, in terms of people struggling in our streets, in our communities, in terms of people needing additional supports, attending at hospitals, and it's not just mental health, it's other aspects of healthcare too. Why we're expanding hospitals, why we're expanding beds across the province, why we're expanding assertive care teams, we know what to do there. Now the member has raised a very important issue today again, and in her private member's bill, about the role of families. How can families be more involved in the care, in particular of adult children that are struggling with mental health and addiction? This is exactly the kind of issue that a review and modernization of the Mental Health Act can address, and we're doing that work.
Member for Richmond Queensborough.
Yesterday, during question period, the Premier commented about this past weekend's horrific tragedy and on the suspect. Quote, "He is rightly charged with murder. He is facing a criminal trial. I hope he is convicted. I hope he spends the rest of his life behind bars." Unquote. Yesterday, at a press conference and in the House, the Premier said that he didn't want to comment on the case because he didn't want to interfere in the police investigation. To the Attorney General, can she please confirm whether or not the Premier's comments yesterday meet the definition of interference in a police investigation?
Premier.
Honourable Speaker, the member is again doing what the first member did, and I'm sure unintentionally. He's conflating my very specific remarks about a public inquiry where we call people to testify, force them to testify about the incidents at the Lapu Lapu Festival. That could compromise the criminal investigation into that mass murder. We won't do that. My own opinion is that this man should be tried, should be prosecuted, should be sentenced for the rest of his life to prison for murdering children and seniors and others. That's my opinion, and I'll be blunt. I think that's the opinion of British Columbians across the province, but it's up to the criminal courts, Honourable Speaker.
Members.
It's up to the courts, Honourable Speaker. They will do that work, and we'll let them do that work.
Member supplemental.
With all due respect, I did not refer to a public inquiry. I'll read the quote again. Quote, "He is rightly charged with murder. He is facing a criminal trial. I hope he is convicted. I hope he spends the rest of his life behind bars," unquote. While we hold strong opinions to what we want to happen to the perpetrator, we don't want to interfere in a police investigation. To the Attorney General, does she agree that the head of this government publicly declaring his own preference regarding guilt, innocence, and sentencing before a police investigation is complete constitutes interference?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I don't know what to take from this. You know, one member is completely willing to try and convict the care team that was following this individual.
Members.
To
Let the
speculate
Premier
about
finish.
what happened until the information is in. Now, I raised
Members.
this yesterday. I think it's
Please.
critical that the facts have a chance to come out. The one person that it is unambiguous about what they did, the individual who drove a vehicle into a crowd of British Columbians, the opposition can't bring itself to say that is murder. He should be tried and convicted. Well, I'm sorry. That's my opinion. And if the member wants me to apologize for that, I never will.
Leader of the third party. Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The 2024 Climate Change Accountability Report was released yesterday. I'll start by saying I'm grateful for the transparency. And this caucus and many British Columbians are frustrated that we are not on track to meet our climate targets. It's my job to convey the anguish and anxiety felt by my constituents on this. A failure to meet legislated targets in any other area would bring harsh criticism, and this is no different. Climate inaction means British Columbians will pay a much steeper price than any carbon price can inflict. Infrastructure damage, health consequences, societal insecurity. This work is going to be hard, Mr. Speaker, and I sadly acknowledge we're in a lull on prioritizing this existential issue of our time. It's difficult to lead the way when popular sentiment works against our long-term responsibilities. My question is for the Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions. How can this House and this government inspire British Columbians to see climate stabilization as a populist collective effort and giving government of any stripe the support and authority to accelerate the energy transition we all know we need to make?
Minister of Energy.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the Leader of the Green Party for the question. Honourable Speaker, just in this period since the election, we've announced 10 renewable energy projects and today introduced legislation to ensure and help ensure that those projects are built. We will be doing more on this question in the future. I think a singular and remarkable effort to respond to our economic development needs and our climate needs, to link them together and to build everywhere in British Columbia, and we're going to do it since the election, Honourable Speaker. We've introduced new regulation on methane, where we're leading Canada, indeed leading the world, a 43% reduction in methane emissions in the oil and gas sector, and the industry deserves some credit for this as well, Honourable Speaker, I would say. And we are going to meet our targets for 2030. Do we have more work to do? You bet we have more work to do. That's why we're reviewing Clean BC programs to ensure that we work towards reducing emissions in British Columbia. That we do that, we make it a priority, and we do it linked to the affordability of people in our province and linked to the clean economic growth we need to do to create jobs everywhere in BC.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the areas where we have a lot of work to do is emissions from transportation, which are up 18% since 2007. This figure is bound to go up with the repeal of the consumer carbon price. The underlying reason is no mystery. In my riding, there's no public transit between Whistler and Vancouver, despite it being a key commuter and tourist corridor. Commuters across BC spend too much of their days stuck in traffic for hours because public transit is inadequate or non-existent. I appreciate the effort on wind energy, but Our concern is that this government is ramping up clean energy that fossil fuel export enterprises can use to greenwash their dirty operations. Every dollar of subsidy to polluting industries is a dollar not spent building public transit and a low-carbon economy that benefits British Columbians in the long term and has a higher return on investment for these public dollars. What is the minister's plan to reduce emissions in the transportation sector?
Minister.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I just disagree with the characterization of the member, and this is a good debate to have. When you produce clean energy and then you do it again and again and again, you build out on the extraordinary opportunity for clean energy on projects, by the way, that are 51% owned by First Nations. You are making a transformational decision about the economy, and we have to continue to do that, Honourable Speaker. There is no other option to do that, and it benefits our economy, creates jobs, and builds public support for action against climate change. You bet we support this. And I hope all members of the House will support this, and we'll be testing that in a coming debate in the legislature, Honourable Speaker. With respect to transportation initiatives, BC has the lead in Canada in transition to EVs, Honourable Speaker. And that's because of the work of a lot of people, including new car dealers, including environmental leaders, and we got to continue to drive in that direction. We have some of the most significant transit projects being built in Canada right now under the leadership of my colleague, the Minister of Transportation. We need more transit. You bet we're building more transit. We need new EVs on the road. We're building it. It means the electricity we make in BC replaces the gasoline we import to BC. This is good for our province. We support Clean BC, and we're going to continue to act on climate change.
Member Courtney Comox.
Both sides of this House agree that mental health is in crisis in this province. Last week, this government proudly announced 9 involuntary care beds at Surrey pretrial and triumphantly declared that progress. Let's be clear, 9 beds isn't progress. It's a Band-Aid. Even Dr. Daniel Vigo said, quote, "Prior to the beds opening, people who required involuntary care while in jail had to wait in segregation for weeks," end quote. Weeks in solitary confinement while in mental health distress. That's not care. That's cruelty. Can the minister confirm that people elsewhere in this province are not being held in solitary confinement awaiting mental health care?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Thank you to the member for the question, talking about the very important interventions and action that this government is taking to support people who need a very special kind of care. Mr. Speaker, we have Dr. Vigo working with us as a Chief Scientific Advisor. His work has helped us to identify a very small group of people who suffer from concurrent disorders, substance use, complex mental health challenges, often acquired brain injury, who need these supports. Mr. Speaker, it is so important that whether this person is in a correctional facility or outside, that they get it. And that's why we've made the commitment that we have. That's why we're building and have opened 10 beds, Mr. Speaker, at the Surrey Pretrial Centre. That's why next month, approved homes at Alouette and Maple Ridge will open for people outside of the correctional centre. That's why we've made the commitment to continue to build out this system so that people, rather than being held in solitary confinement, get the care that they need before they can be released back into the correctional facility population, or if being released or out in the community, get the support that they need. Mr. Speaker, we know that more needs to be done. We've made the commitment, we're acting, we've opened beds, and we're going to do more.
Member supplemental.
Respectfully, Minister, I don't believe it's a small number. That is not the experience in communities across British Columbia. To the Minister, how many people are concurrently being held in segregation while awaiting involuntary care? And when will this minister commit to funding enough beds across the province to make this cruel practice obsolete?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. One of the most important things I think that we are all seeing is how we have to approach this work with compassion and with dignity and with ensuring that people are safe in our communities and that people who are experiencing these disorders are safe as well. Mr. Speaker, for too long, there has been a cycle of moving between the criminal justice system and out into community, Mr. Speaker, with people not getting the care that they need. The humane thing to do, the right thing to do, is to provide supports for these people, and that's what we're doing through involuntary treatment. Mr. Speaker, that's why we opened these 10 beds at Surrey Pretrial. We're going to continue this work. We, as a government, have recognized how important that is to do. That's why we have Dr. Vigo working with us. We're going to continue to do that. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, we're going to expand this system of care so that people get the compassionate, patient-centered care that they need.
Member for Kelowna Mission.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we can definitely all agree that it's been too long. For years, municipalities and community groups in the Okanagan have been forced to pick up the slack and take the blame for this government's failed addiction and mental health policies. There is a regional consensus around the need for a facility like the Redfish Healing Centre, which is a proven model to provide mandatory compassionate care for people in need. But people in desperate need of help are still waiting, and our communities are still bearing the brunt of it. Will the Premier commit today to fast-track this project?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Thank you to the member for the question. The Redfish Healing Centre has presented an opportunity to give people the compassionate care that they need under the very specialized guidance of teams of mental health professionals, of psychiatrists, of people who work with them to help recover from severe substance use addictions combined with mental health challenges. Mr. Speaker, I've had the opportunity to visit the facility and see the incredible care that's being delivered there. Mr. Speaker, we've made that commitment to continue to expand those services and more to ensure that people get the care they need, not just that type of specialized care, but all through the continuum of care that is needed, from early intervention, Mr. Speaker, right through to the kinds of treatment and recovery services that are needed, the aftercare, so that people can return to their homes and return to their communities. Mr. Speaker, we are not shying away from this. We never will. We're going to continue, and we're going to continue to work hard at it.
Member for Skeena.
Mr. Speaker, Northern BC has the highest rates of suicide in the province, nearly double the national average and significantly more than any other health authority in British Columbia. Families are losing loved ones because basic mental health care simply doesn't exist in Northern BC. In my riding, a psychiatrist only comes a few times a year, and it's a long wait to see a counsellor. Will the Health Minister commit to at least one full-time psychiatrist in Skeena by the end of 2025?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. And I appreciate the many opportunities that she and I have had to discuss the inequity of services for people who are living in the North and the need to expand those services to rural and remote communities. And I couldn't agree more. Mr. Speaker, we know that it's very difficult for people to navigate the mental health system, and that people who live in the North and live in smaller communities experience that to a greater degree. And that's why action is needed, and I completely agree. It's why we've been expanding crisis teams across BC. It's why we've established telephone lines for people to be able to get access. Mr. Speaker, it's why we have invested in crisis counseling and counseling supports, low barrier counseling. In fact, Mr. Speaker, last year over 29,000 people accessed our programs in counseling. Over half of them were accessing mental health supports for the very first time. We are going to continue to invest in the mental health care system, and we are going to continue to expand access to those supports, including in the member's own riding. Thank you.
Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll take that response as a no then. We still don't get access to a psychiatrist in Skeena. Clearly, this government doesn't grasp the gravity of the situation in BC's North. Mental health challenges are the precursor to many of the problems that are devastating our communities, particularly addiction. Thousands of British Columbians have been seeking treatment voluntarily, and they cannot access it. It's enough excuses, so I'm hoping if the Minister of Environment, the only NDP MLA in the North, can talk to her colleagues down south and finally get some action for the people that are in need in Northern BC.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I welcome a conversation with any MLA from any riding to talk about the supports in their communities. Mr. Speaker, the member talks about the importance of being able to gain access to mental health supports early, and I want to talk specifically about one particular program that this government has established and invested in, and that's the Early Psychosis Intervention Program. Mr. Speaker, this is so important for youth to be able to access, and I'm going to tell a story about a young man, Cameron Webster. Cameron Webster was a typical teenager. He was into sports. He was a competitive boxer. When he was 19 years old, he began to experience auditory hallucinations and paranoia. His parents took him to the hospital. He was diagnosed with psychosis. He became a client of Island Health's Early Psychosis Intervention Program. And a year later, he was also diagnosed with a schizoaffective disorder, Mr. Speaker. He says that the time he experienced in psychosis, with psychosis, marks the hardest part of his life, but it gave him a new direction in life and compassion for others. And now, today, he went on to study mental health and addictions locally at Camosa College. He works as a peer support worker in the same program that he used to attend. Mr. Speaker, that is a guiding light in the kinds of supports we need to continue to expand for youth, for teenagers, for adults, and it's the work that this government is so deeply committed to doing. Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue to do this work because we know that people need the care when they need it, where they need it, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Member for Prince George Mackenzie.
Mr. Speaker, we've just heard from the Minister of Health, but respectfully, my colleague is not from Vancouver Island. Yesterday, the Premier told this House that the government is making very good progress on psychiatric care in northern BC. Yet today, patients in crisis continue to be released prematurely, directly risking community safety and safety to themselves. The only secure forensic care for a potentially dangerous patient in a community like Terrace is 12 hours away in Kamloops, if there's a space even available. The Premier talks about meetings and special advisors, but Northern Health needs more than promises. They need secure psychiatric care beds immediately. The City of Prince George supports the petition for better psychiatric care in Northern Health, and I'll ask the Premier again while the City of Prince George delegation is here in this House today. Mr. Speaker, when will the government move beyond meetings and platitudes and actually deliver secure psychiatric hospital beds that northern communities desperately deserve?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I thank the member for his advocacy for his community. I suspect he's aware that our work there goes well beyond meetings and conversations. I look forward to being able to update him very soon. We've been working closely with the City of Prince George, with Chief Dolly and Logan, with mental health specialists, the local hospital, on adding additional beds, and I look forward to share more information soon.
Member for Langley Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, this government talks about action, but every day things in this province just get worse. Yesterday, a constituent of mine sent me a video of a drug tent that is set up once again outside of Langley Memorial Hospital. This tent was set up 50 yards away from long-term care home for seniors. I asked the minister in February to take care of this, and she said, quote, "We expect health authorities whose jurisdiction it is to enforce this policy, to do that work," unquote. She promised me it would be dealt with. Here we are over 2 months later, and this problem still persists. Mr. Speaker, when will this minister act and get rid of the drug tent outside of Langley Memorial Hospital where families go to visit their loved ones?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The member refers to Surrey Memorial Hospital, a place that has episodic... The member mentioned Surrey and mentioned Langley. I'll talk about Langley. Mr. Speaker, overdose prevention services are an important part of the continuum of supports that are provided to people that help separate them from the toxic drug supply and keep them alive and give them access to people to talk about the supports that they need. Mr. Speaker, I've spoken in this House many times before around the work that we're doing on overdose prevention services and ensuring that we are working with health authorities under the policies that are provided, but also updating that guidance and policies for health authorities to ensure that people are kept safe. Mr. Speaker, that staff and workers, volunteers at these services, the people around in communities as well, and I'll have more to say about that soon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Premier yesterday, he's talked about getting answers. The problem with that is that British Columbians have been looking for answers for years, not just since the tragic events that took place on Saturday. It's been years. We've seen Constable Yang lose her life. We've seen in White Rock somebody stabbed to death on the White Rock Promenade. We've seen an elderly senior have their door kicked in at midnight and beaten half to death, and then hours later, we see an RCMP officer almost have their firearm taken from them and had to have a physician choke that individual out. These cases aren't new to this House. The problem is the answers the Premier has been giving in this House aren't new either. The only legislation that we've got to deal with any of these issues has come from this side of the House. This side of the House has put that forward. We've had a Premier and a government campaign not one election, but 2 elections in terms of involuntary care and involuntary treatment, and nothing. My question to the Premier is this: will he stand up today and take responsibility for the utter failure that we are seeing in every corner of this province regarding mental health and regarding keeping our communities safe? Will the Premier take the leadership and the responsibility that he has failed us to get this done?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I appreciate the member's passion about the issue. It's important to have safe communities, but it's important to be accurate as well.
Everything you said is accurate.
The government has put in place new directives for physicians and nurses across the province about involuntary care for people struggling with mental health and addiction. We have now expanded ACT teams. We've expanded ACT teams across the province. These are teams that go out and assertively provide mental health care in the community. 34 across the province, in communities right across British Columbia. We have new crisis response teams. There are nurse and peers that go out to take the load off police, respond to mental health issues, provide care to people so police can focus on fighting crime. We're building 140 additional mental health beds at hospitals. We opened 10 new beds just the other day, Surrey pretrial, the beginning of a series of beds targeted at people struggling with mental health, addiction, and brain injury. Honourable Speaker, members asking serious questions. I'm providing serious answers about the action the government's taking. And we're not done. We've got more to do. The good news is that we're seeing crime rates come down in the province. Honourable Speaker.
Members, question was asked. Let's hear the answer. There's no need to interrupt. Please. Premier will continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We know we've got more to do, but we also know that these interventions are working. And we're going to keep working until every single British Columbian is safe in every community in this province.
The bell ends the question period. Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Speaker, I rise on a point of order. I've never in this place made a statement that I wanted to convict mental health care teams, and such as was characterized by the Premier, and I'd ask him to withdraw.
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I was using a metaphor to refer to the member's speculation about the teams, but I accept that she has not made that statement. Withdraw it.
Thank you. Honourable members, I have the honour to table 2 Register of Lobbyists reports. Determination Decision 2403, Paul Rasmussen, and Reconsideration Decision 2403, Paul Rasmussen. Madam Clerk.
Orders of the day.
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I call motion 19 on the order paper. Honourable Speaker, I move motion 19, of which notice has been given in my name on the order paper, which appoints a special committee to review the Lobbyists Transparency Act.
Members, you heard the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried. Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I call motion 20 on the order paper. Honourable Speaker, I move motion 20, of which notice has been given in my name on the order paper, which rescinds the sessional order adopted by the House on March 12, 2025, and replaces it with a new sessional order establishing Section A, Section B, and Section C.
You have heard the question.